Welcome back to Out and About Today. I'm Pam Wheeler. The Metro Historical Commission will unveil an historical marker at the site of the first openly gay bars in Nashville. Our next guest was responsible for the research for the marker. I welcome author and volunteer historian John Bridges back to the show. But you were here, I don't know how many years ago, who's counting, on to talk about your book. You've written a number of books, How to Be a Gentleman. There's a series of them. Check them out because people need this kind of information.
Well, I hope that we'll train the world to behave a little better.
I know I need it, so I can only imagine.
Well, we have them for women too. So
okay. Well, so let's talk about this marker. How did the conversation even start to want to honor these two establishments in this way?
Well, I have a long history wanting to do a marker downtown. I wanted to do one at 8th and Union on the site of the Opry, where the Opry began at the National Life Building. And I'd wanted it for 20 years. I went into Tim Walker at the Historical Commission. He said, "John, that's great, but you can't," because it was going up in January of this last year. And so my friend John Glassmeyer was talking with me. He said, "Well, where were the bars down here?" Because there'd been a story in the scene 20 years ago about Juanitas.
Right.
And I thought they were at 8th and Commerce, but then I did research and it turns out they were 7th and Commerce, and the research just took off. So I have to thank John Glassmeyer for that. But
and the Brooks Fund, what's their role? Because there's some money required to get...
Well, yes, $2,500 to do a marker. But so I thought, I could have done it myself, but I thought this is something that the Brooks Fund can do because it's about history, it's about gay and lesbian history, in the same way that they've done a documentary a few years back, a very fine documentary, and put all the extra tape from that in an archive. So it's very important. And so I went to them and they said yes, and then we went to this historical commission, they said yes. So it really took off, and then I've just been up to my neck in it.
Well, let's talk about these bars a little bit. Let's take us back to the 50s and 60s and the time where these bars were needed, but it was completely different. So take us back.
Well, the bars existed back then. I went to the Jungle, I believe the night was very dark and it was very late, a couple of times in the late 70s when I was first officially coming out. And, so I wasn't there in 1952 when they began. But the bars began as straight bars. Just as they began in New York and other cities, they weren't begun by gay people. They were bars that gradually became gay. And gay people then needed a place to go to get together.
Right.
And to get to know each other. And you know, it's like at gay bars, that's where I met all my good friends growing up.
Right.
And but they, and you know, they went there to, you know, find a little honey in the night, you know, that kind of stuff.
And it wasn't uncommon for these bars to be raided. So,
well, the Juanitas was raided in 1963, and there were 27 people arrested there, and then in 1970. A guy was shot on the street in front of the Jungle. But that's the only raid that we have in which people were arrested.
Okay.
But I'm aware, and I have stories of people telling me about cops coming in and all that. They would come in and patrol it. But I think Juanitas had a little more trouble with that than the Jungle, because the Jungle had probably paid the cops off.
Right.
And you know, the Jungle was begun by Warren Jett, who was very prominent in the bar business downtown. And
straight man, like you've mentioned. These
are straight man. Juanita was straight, as far as I know. Yeah.
Right.
And they began the bars, and they gradually went gay. I figure Juanita may have brought some people with her. She had been out in the bar business before, but she had been arrested serving drink to guys under the age, because we had, you know, we didn't have liquor by the drink then. It was crazy. And we didn't have Metro government.
What do you mean you don't have? I knew about Metro government. What about no liquor by the drink?
You couldn't go in and just buy a drink.
I gotcha.
And you had to bring in your own bottle, theoretically, or they would put up a drink behind the bar. And
So, because we're almost out of time, if you can believe that, we have a minute left. Where exactly is the marker?
It's going to be, it's in the middle of the block between 5th, 7th, and 8th. It'll be right in the middle of the block. I have a picture of it, of the place, which is from Tennessee, and Ricky Rogers there found it for me.
Yeah, we're
and
gonna show it.
And so it's, and it has to be right in the middle of the block.
Right.
Because it really was.
Leave us, we have 30 seconds, what you think this marker will do for the gay community here.
Well, I hope it will remind people, and younger people who don't really understand. They think now that we've got the right to marry, it's all done. But it wasn't always that way.
Right, you're right. Thank you, John Bridges.
Thank you,
I always
Pam.
appreciate you.
It's great.
That's all the time we have this evening. Until next time, follow us on your favorite social outlets for breaking LGBT news, or watch us anytime online at outandabouttoday.com. See you next weekend.